Lunch with the assistant principal. This is my story of petty revenge. Last weekend I went to a high school reunion and we talked about a lot of things from back then. We've been talking about stuff from back then on Facebook, and this really funny petty revenge story came out about a student who was sent to the office by the assistant principal. He was in the lunchroom and saw the student toss his half-empty milk container into the trash, but it accidentally hit another student and some milk went on her. It was clearly an accident. The student apologized to the one who was hit with the milk, but it didn't matter. When the assistant principal went back to the office and talked to the student, he decided that since the student couldn't eat nicely with others, he would have the privilege of dining with himself the next day, at the head table in the lunchroom. This table served as an isolation table for students who misbehaved during lunch, but was visible to the entire room, so students would see who was publicly being punished. The student showed the letter that was sent home with him to his parents and they didn't agree with the decision. But they told him, "It's no big deal that you have to eat at the other table for one day instead of your friends. Deal with it." And now the petty revenge. His mom worked at a seafood market and she went there after dinner to buy his lunch for the next day. They steamed a lobster and a dozen clams and chilled them overnight. That morning she boiled an ear of corn on the cob, and included butter and salt in the container. She also packed a small bucket for the shells. There may have been some coleslaw. At lunch the next day, when he sat down at the table with the assistant principal, he put on a lobster bib, spread everything out in front of him, and feasted. Many of us in the cafeteria could hear him using the lobster cracker to open the lobster shell, and some of us were watching him eat. At one point he turned to the assistant principal and asked, "How's your sandwich?" There was a lot of laughter when he said that, which got him in more trouble. I just remember how disgusted the assistant principal face was. What an awesome day that was.
Wow, what an amazing story. The best part for me was, how's your sandwich? This next story is about how to conduct yourself at work.
Today I messed up by accidentally getting high at work. I started a new location at my job and today I went in for my second shift. I got my break a few hours in and went outside to vape with my new co-workers. I've vaped for years and I'm pretty used to the feeling of it. One of my co-workers was heading home and sat with my group to chat for a few minutes and my other co-worker noticed he had a e-cigarette card and asked for a draw of it. I wasn't aware of what a card really was and assumed it was just like any other e-cigarette or vape, so I asked for a pull. Me and my coworker both took 2 hits and I noticed it really hurt my chest and tasted off, so I handed it back to him, not liking it, thank God, because normally I would have taken more than just 2 pulls. A few minutes later I started to feel really weird and my coworker turned to me and said, "Are you feeling it?" By this point my vision was so weird and my heart was pounding in my chest and all I managed to say was, "What is happening to me?" And his face drops as I tell him I didn't realize he laced it with some drug I was unaware of. I've never actually done anything past alcohol and electric cigs. He immediately panics and tells me to just make sure I relax and don't get myself too worked up, and the feeling should pass in about 45 minutes. I was halfway through my break and decided I'd try go back to work after my break ended. I clocked back in and my vision zoomed out so far and I was heavily disassociated and panicking. I ran off to the bathroom and my co-worker stops me to see if I'm okay, and I am absolutely not. I had reached the height of it and was completely out of my mind. I had to be sent home from work because I couldn't function at all. Now I'm scared I'm gonna get in big trouble in work considering I just started there. To make it clear, they told me it was a card. It was my own fault for not actually clarifying what that meant and what was in it. Well, I at least know now a card is a form of weed. I just didn't expect it to be so strong.
I'm sorry, but I'm gonna go ahead and elaborate a little bit on this. There's just too many red flags in this story. Get that you just started working there and you need something to calm down, but you shouldn't be smoking anything, especially if you don't even know what it is you're smoking. Well, at least this next story proves that ignorance is bliss.
Today I messed up by tracking my dad so I could smoke while I was going to be home alone last week, and I decided to smoke weed. My parents aren't that strict, but I still try to respect them, so I only smoke outside and when I'm alone. My dad had told me he was going out with friends, and my mom was supposed to be at a work event until late at night. I'm usually pretty paranoid about them catching me, and I had the amazing idea of going on my parents' phones and sharing their location with me on Find My iPhone. I did some research and saw it shows up in messages when you turn it on, but I didn't think they would notice it. They're not very tech savvy either, so maybe they wouldn't even know what it is? So I figured I was safe. So anyways, I did that, and when my mom left the house, I checked it on my phone to make sure it worked. Then my dad left a couple hours later, and I started smoking when I saw he was decently far away from the house. I felt like a genius. After my smoke session, I checked both their locations again, and noticed my dad was on the other side of the city, nowhere near where he said he would be. I didn't think much of it, and went inside to chill and watch movies. I checked the app again after an hour, and he was still at the same place. My paranoia got the best of me, and I looked closer, and it was a random house in a neighborhood that a fake they have no friends in, definitely not the restaurant they were apparently going to. I decided to call my dad, asking when he'd be home. I listened closely, and didn't hear any background noise, like music or other people talking. I didn't say anything, and when he got home it all seemed normal. He's been at that house many times since then, using multiple other excuses, like a work party, meeting with clients. He sometimes just goes there for a bit after work. I know there could be other explanations for this, but it seems pretty likely that he's cheating. I don't know what else it could be. I haven't said anything to either of my parents. I don't know what to do. I'm kind of hoping he'll get caught eventually without me having to say something, but I don't want it to go on too long. The first time I caught him couldn't have been the first time he was there though. I just don't want to be the reason my parents' relationship gets ruined, but if he is cheating then it's already too late.
Some closing thoughts here. Don't be smoking anything at work. Wait till you get home. Make sure you know what it is, and if you have a feast for lunch, at least offer some. Lastly, understand that in this life, you are your choices. That's all from me. Peace!